Twin babies, one black, one white. A hospital goes silent. The shocking truth. The delivery room fell into a frozen silence as the doctor lifted the second baby out of the mother. Leo, the firstborn, had deep brown skin and curly black hair, just like his parents. But when the second baby was revealed, everyone was left speechless. Noah, snow white with blonde hair and sparkling blue eyes. "It can't be," one nurse gasped, while the doctor stood motionless, staring at the baby with a look of confusion. When Chloe woke up, she quickly asked where her children were. The nurse hesitated before gently placing both babies into her arms. The moment Chloe saw Noah, she recoiled in shock. "No, this can't be my son." Her husband, Ben, was equally stunned. A terrifying thought flashed through his mind. Could this really be their child? Both demanded an immediate DNA test. When the results came back, the truth was beyond belief. Noah was indeed their biological child, but he had albinism, a rare genetic mutation. But the nightmare didn't end there. When word spread, the entire community began gossiping. Some even suspected Chloe of infidelity. In Nigeria, where albino people are often viewed as cursed, Noah wasn't just different. He became the target of relentless stigma. What awaits the twins as they leave the hospital? Will their family be able to overcome the harsh discrimination and prejudice? Follow this jaw-dropping story, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next emotional journey. The sound of the baby's heartbeat echoed steadily in the delivery room, blending with the soft beeping of the machines. The doctor took a deep breath, eyes fixed on the monitoring screen, while a nurse carefully wiped Chloe's forehead. She had been in labor for over 10 hours, but finally, the doctor decided to perform a cesarean section for the safety of both babies. Everything proceeded like any other normal twin birth. No one in the room was prepared for the horror about to unfold. "We're about to see the first baby," a surgeon announced as another nurse reached out to assist. The first moment passed. A cry rang out. Leo, the firstborn, came into the world with curly black hair, warm brown skin, and big, round, healthy eyes, just as expected. Healthy. The boy weighs about 3.2 kilograms. A nurse joyfully announced as she wrapped Leo in a blanket and moved him aside so the doctor could continue the surgery. Everyone smiled, and Chloe, though in a daze, felt an overwhelming happiness fill her heart. She had waited for this moment for so long. But then, no one was prepared for what happened next. "Here's the second one," the doctor said as he gently pulled the second baby out. But the moment that followed, the entire room went silent. No one spoke a word. No more joyful announcements. All eyes were fixed on the baby in the doctor's hands, their faces shifting from curiosity to confusion and slowly to utter bewilderment. Unlike Leo, this baby had pale white skin, bright blonde hair, and light blue eyes. A nurse instinctively took a step back, her eyes wide in disbelief. Another nurse covered her mouth as if afraid she might say something she shouldn't. What in the world was going on? The lead doctor, with over 20 years of experience, could not believe his eyes. He glanced at Chloe's medical records, double-checking all the information. This was a set of twins born from the same mother. But why were they so completely different? No one dared to speak. A nurse whispered, stammering. Could there have been a mix-up? Another nurse shook her head, her voice firm. "No, we just performed the surgery, and the babies came out right before our eyes. These are two babies from the same womb." Then what was happening? The doctor gently examined the strange white baby. The boy was healthy, but completely different from his parents and his brother. His tiny fingers wiggled in the air, his mouth pressed shut, and his eyes fluttered open. But instead of feeling joy, a chill ran down the spines of everyone in the room. A nurse turned to the doctor, whispering. Could it be? She hesitated. The entire room understood what she was implying. Could it be that the mother had cheated? The doctor immediately dismissed that thought. No, this couldn't be an affair. It was impossible for twins born at the same time to be from different fathers. But if not, then what was happening? Meanwhile, Chloe was slowly starting to wake up. She felt the tension in the room, but didn't yet understand what was going on. She turned to one of the nurses, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. Where are my babies? The nurse froze, unsure of how to respond. The doctor cleared his throat, signaling for the nurses to bring the babies closer to Chloe. But before handing Noah to her, the nurse hesitated for a moment. Before I give you your baby, I think you should prepare yourself. Chloe frowned. Prepare for what? When the babies were placed in her arms, Chloe blinked rapidly. She looked at Leo. He was a cute boy with dark brown skin like his father's. But when she turned her gaze to Noah, her entire body froze. No way. Chloe suddenly looked up at the doctors, her voice trembling. What is this? No one had an answer right then. But one thing was clear. This was not just an ordinary birth. Mysteries began to unfold, and the truth would shock the entire Adebayo family. But Chloe had no idea that the suspicions and gossip from society would prove to be even more terrifying than this moment. The hospital room had become so tense that Chloe felt like the air around her was thickening, slow and suffocating. She looked at her second child, Noah, with porcelain-white skin, golden blonde hair, and pale blue eyes, and a wave of fear began to creep into her mind. No one in her family, nor her husband, had blonde hair. No one had skin as white as snow. How could this happen? Ben, her husband, tried to stay calm, but Chloe could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. He was asking the same thing everyone else was thinking. Could this really be his child? The doctor, understanding the overwhelming confusion, decided to resolve the issue immediately. I think we should do a DNA test, he said, his voice calm but decisive. The suggestion hit Chloe like a punch to the chest. A DNA test? What did that mean? Did they suspect her? Or did they doubt the whole birth? Chloe opened her mouth to protest, but then bit her lip. She looked at Ben. He said nothing, but his eyes were waiting for her answer. She took a deep breath. Fine, do it. 3 days later, the DNA test results were in the doctor's hands. Both Chloe and Ben sat across from each other in the hospital room while the doctor slowly opened the envelope containing the results. The tension in the air was so thick that Chloe could hear her heart pounding in her chest. The doctor glanced at the paper, then looked up, his face no longer filled with confusion like before. He smiled gently. Congratulations. Noah is indeed your biological child. Chloe exhaled deeply, while Ben closed his eyes as if he had just released a huge burden. Though he trusted his wife and never wanted to doubt her, his mind had been torn apart over the last 3 days. But why? Why were Leo and Noah so different? The doctor sat down, neatly folding the test results before looking at Chloe and Ben with understanding in his eyes. Noah has a rare genetic condition called albinism. Chloe frowned. She had heard of albinism before, but never thought it would show up in her family. What is albinism? Why does my child have it? The doctor nodded, beginning to explain carefully. Albinism is a genetic condition caused by a mutation in a gene, which prevents the body from producing enough melanin, the pigment responsible for the color of skin, hair, and eyes. This results in very light skin, blonde or white hair, and sometimes vision problems. But how could this happen? No one in our family has ever had this. Chloe almost shouted. The doctor gently placed his hand on the table. Albinism is a recessive genetic trait, which means it doesn't show up unless both parents carry the gene. It's possible that both of you are carriers of the recessive gene, but never knew because it never showed up in your family before. When both of you passed the gene onto one of the babies, Noah received both copies of the mutated gene and was born with albinism. Chloe was silent. This meant that she and Ben had unknowingly passed the gene to their child. It wasn't a mistake, and it wasn't some mysterious reason. It was just fate. Ben remained quiet, but Chloe knew he was thinking deeply. After a moment, he looked up and asked the doctor, "So, can Noah live a normal life like other children?" The doctor nodded, but with some hesitation. Health-wise, Noah is perfectly healthy, but there are some issues to be aware of. Due to the lack of melanin, his skin will be very sensitive to sunlight. You'll need to always protect him from the sun to avoid skin cancer. Additionally, albinism can also cause vision problems because melanin is involved in eye development. You'll need to take him for regular eye checkups to monitor. Chloe fell silent. She had been worried when she saw her child was different, but now she was even more concerned. Noah would be vulnerable not only physically, but mentally as well. Will society accept my child? The doctor hesitated. He didn't want to frighten them, but he couldn't lie. I'm not sure. In many countries, people with albinism can live normally. But in places where there are still misconceptions and superstitions, they can face stigmatization. The doctor paused for a moment before continuing. Especially in Nigeria, many still believe that people with albinism are cursed or have supernatural powers. Some are even hunted for terrifying reasons. The air in the room became cold. Chloe felt a chill run down her spine. Noah wasn't just different. He could also become a target of prejudice or, worse, danger. Ben squeezed Chloe's hand. Were they ready to face this challenge? And if not, did they have any other choice? That question lingered in Chloe's mind as she looked down at her precious child. The baby was still peacefully sleeping, unaware of the storms waiting for him in the world outside. News about the strange twin babies spread like wildfire. At first, it was just whispers in the hospital hallways, but within days, the entire neighborhood where the Adebayos lived was buzzing with gossip. Curious eyes began appearing whenever Chloe carried Noah outside. People stopped in the street to stare, some even pointing and whispering behind their backs. One morning, when Chloe took Noah out to the balcony to get some early sun, she overheard two neighbors talking below. She's definitely been cheating on her husband. No one has a baby as white as that in a family full of black people. Maybe it's not a normal child, another voice whispered. There's something very strange about it. People are saying it's an omen. Chloe felt her blood rush to her face. She tightened her grip around little Noah's body, her heart aching with every word. She couldn't believe that people she had trusted could say such things. But this was only the beginning of their nightmare. Every time Ben left the house for work, he caught suspicious glances from the men in the neighborhood. Some didn't hesitate to block his path and ask directly, "Are you sure that's your child?" An older man, a friend of Ben's father, placed his hand on Ben's shoulder, a look of pity in his eyes. "We all know you're a good man, but women these days, who knows, right?" Ben clenched his fists but didn't want to start a fight. He simply nodded and walked away without saying a word. But those words haunted him all day long. Despite the DNA results confirming that Noah was his biological child, the whispers of society still crept into his mind. There were nights when he silently watched Noah sleep, wondering what the future would hold for his son. Would the boy be rejected by society just because he was born different? If it had only been the gossip, perhaps Chloe and Ben could have endured it. But soon, the discrimination began to show itself more clearly. One morning, Chloe took their 3 children, Samuel, Leo, and Noah, to the supermarket. As she was pushing the shopping cart inside, a woman suddenly yanked her child away and looked at Noah with a frightened expression. "Don't go near it," the woman whispered harshly to her child. "That's the cursed child." Chloe froze. She felt her breath catch in her chest. Noah was just an infant. How could anyone be afraid of an innocent child like that? She gripped the cart handle tightly, trying to hold back tears. The news about Noah even reached Ben's family back in the village. One day, his father called with a serious tone. "You need to bring the baby back to the village immediately." Ben frowned. "For what?" "We need to perform a cleansing ritual. It might be possessed. There are things science can't explain." Ben was stunned. He had never believed in exorcism rituals or magic, but he knew that in many rural areas of Nigeria, people with albinism were seen as not belonging to humanity. There were horrifying stories about albino children being kidnapped because people believed their bones could bring luck and wealth. A chill ran down his spine. No, he wouldn't let anyone touch his son. "Dad, I won't take Noah there. He's perfectly healthy. He's my child, and I will protect him." On the other end of the phone, his father sighed heavily. "Then be prepared. People won't accept him easily." Ben tightened his grip on the phone, his heart filled with worry. Weeks later, Chloe received an unsigned letter slipped through their door. "Take that child away from here. If you don't, disaster will fall on your family." Chloe shuddered. She felt as though she was being watched. Could someone truly believe Noah was such an omen that they wanted to drive him out of the neighborhood? She immediately ran to find Ben. When he read the letter, his face darkened. They couldn't go on living like this. They had to do something. But they didn't realize that it would be Chloe who would make the decision that could change their lives forever. At first, it was only curious glances when Chloe took Noah outside for a walk around the neighborhood. She could clearly feel the stares from the neighbors. Some pretended to sweep their yards while others stood chatting, but turned their heads to look at her. The whispers, the furrowed brows, none of them could hide the skepticism and quiet gossip from those around them. But it didn't take long before the whispers could no longer be suppressed. One morning, when Chloe went to the market, an elderly woman stood right in front of her, her eyes fixed on Noah, who was sound asleep in her arms. "Good Lord," the woman muttered, stepping back a little. Chloe frowned. "What's going on?" The old woman pointed at Noah, her voice lowered as if afraid someone might hear. This baby is not normal. I've never seen anyone born like this in this village. Are you sure it's your child? Chloe felt like a bucket of cold water had been thrown over her. She held her son tighter, her voice growing cold. This is my son. Is there something wrong with that? The woman shook her head, her eyes full of hesitation. You should be careful. Some children shouldn't be born. They could bring bad omens. Chloe went numb. She had never believed in superstitions, but the old woman's words weren't the only ones she had heard in the past few days. One day, when Chloe was pushing the stroller with Noah and Leo, a group of women washing clothes by the river laughed as she passed by. It's quite a strange story, one of them said. I heard there have been a few cases like this before. Sometimes the mother isn't faithful, but she tries to cover it up by saying it's a medical phenomenon. Her husband must be really stupid to believe it. Chloe stopped immediately. She turned around and stared directly at the group of women. What did you just say? They pretended nothing was wrong, but one of them still smirked. It's nothing, just some casual talk. But Chloe knew exactly what they were talking about. About her, about Noah, and more importantly, they doubted her faithfulness. She couldn't believe it. She had gone through 9 months of pregnancy, endured the pain of a cesarean section, and now they dared to tarnish her name like this? Rage surged in her chest, but she held it back. She couldn't fight with everyone. But what worried her more was, would Ben hear these words? Would he be affected? Ben never spoke about it, but Chloe noticed he had become quieter. The conversations between them weren't as natural as before. He no longer hugged her from behind while she was cooking, and they didn't chat happily on the porch in the evening anymore. One time, Chloe saw him sitting alone in the living room, holding a cup of tea but not drinking it, staring into space. She walked over and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. What are you thinking about? He jumped, turning to look at her. At first, he didn't answer, but after a pause, he quietly said, Am I too naive, Chloe? Chloe's heart tightened. Naive about what? Ben took a deep breath. I trust you. I trust my wife. He paused for a moment, as if struggling with his own thoughts. But the gossip hasn't stopped. People say I've been deceived, that I've been raising someone else's child without knowing. She looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. So, do you trust me? Ben turned to look directly into her eyes. I do. Just 2 simple words. But Chloe knew her husband was being tortured by the pressure from society. He could trust her, but could he face the thousands of doubtful eyes out there? Not long after, one late evening, Ben returned home with a tense look on his face. He walked into the house, threw his coat on the chair, and sighed heavily. What's wrong? Chloe asked, sensing the unease in her husband. Ben rubbed his hands over his face, then looked straight at her. Today, a colleague told me straight to my face that if I don't want to become the laughingstock of the city, I should take Noah for another DNA test, and this time, at a different hospital. Chloe was stunned. She couldn't believe that even educated people doubted what science had already proven. But what shocked her even more was Ben hadn't immediately rejected it. Even though he loved his son unconditionally, even though he had said he trusted Chloe, a small part of him was still shaken by the words from society. No doubt about it, the cruel gossip was slowly eroding his trust. Chloe knew that if she didn't do something now, the doubt would continue to grow, and one day it would be enough to tear their family apart. The Adebayo family's small home had always been peaceful, but since Noah's birth, the atmosphere had become heavier than ever. While the gossip from the neighbors was easy to ignore, the pressure from Ben's family felt like a mountain weighing on his shoulders. One evening, after Chloe had just gotten Noah to sleep, Ben's phone rang. It was his mother calling. He stood up, answered the phone, and Chloe quietly watched him, sensing that this call would not be simple. Ben, are you home? His mother asked. Yes, I'm at home, he replied. Then tomorrow, take the baby back to the village. We need to see someone. Ben frowned. See who? A healer. A very skilled one. He can help us understand what's going on with the child. Chloe heard those words from across the room, and her whole body went stiff. Mom, what do you mean? Ben snapped, his voice low but tense. I mean, there's no way a child like that could be born into our family without a reason. Don't you see? We need to check if it really is cursed. Then at least we can protect our family. Chloe couldn't take it anymore. She stood up, walked straight to her husband, and snatched the phone from his hand. Mom, Noah is not cursed. He's a healthy child, My son with Ben. Chloe tried to stay calm, but her voice trembled with anger. On the other end of the line, Ben's mother sounded colder than ever. Are you sure? If it's truly normal, then why does everyone see it as abnormal? Or are you hiding something? Chloe felt as though she had been slapped across the face. She took a deep breath, trying to control her emotions. I'm not hiding anything. My son is special, but he's perfectly normal. The doctor has checked. Science has proven it. You want to check? Fine. But only doctors and medical experts have the right to examine my son, not some healer. Ben's mother became furious. Who do you think you are to talk to me like that? Do you know what family you're in? In our village, these things can't always be explained by science. I don't care what you believe in, but you have no right to touch my son. Chloe gritted her teeth, responding firmly. On the other end of the line, there was a long silence before Ben's mother hung up. Chloe placed the phone on the table, exhaling deeply, feeling both angry and exhausted. She turned to look at her husband. Ben didn't say anything, just sitting quietly on the chair with an unreadable expression. What do you think? Chloe asked, her voice guarded. Ben closed his eyes, rubbing his temples. I don't know, Chloe. I don't believe in spiritual matters, but this is my family. You don't understand. When my mother decides something, she doesn't let go easily. The anger inside Chloe flared up again. Are you saying that you also want to take Noah to see the healer? No. Ben immediately countered. I don't want to. But if I refuse, you know what? They won't leave us alone. Not just my mother, but the whole family. The entire village will think we're hiding something. They'll never see Noah as a normal child. Chloe looked at him, her gaze cold. If they can't accept our son, that's their problem, not ours. She hugged Noah tightly in her arms. You can compromise if you want, but I swear to you, no one can force me to take my son to see some healer for a cleansing. No one. They stared at each other for a long while, neither saying a word. That night, Chloe held Noah close. She knew this was just the beginning of the fight to protect her son. The days following the argument with Ben's family were sleepless for Chloe. Every time she looked at Noah, her heart ached. Why should an innocent child be seen as an omen? Why should her son grow up surrounded by doubt and discrimination? She knew she couldn't stay silent forever. Every day, when she took Noah outside, she could feel the eyes of the neighbors. They no longer whispered because Chloe had become too familiar with their gossip, but she knew they were always watching, always wondering what Noah really was. Those thoughts pushed Chloe to do something that even she had never considered. One evening, after getting the two boys to sleep, Chloe sat down beside Ben. I want to post pictures of the two kids online, she said. Ben looked at her, surprised. What are you saying? I want the world to see Leo and Noah. I want to tell our story. He furrowed his brow, setting his teacup down. Are you sure, Chloe? If the neighbors can't accept it, then social media might be even worse. People could say far worse things. She nodded, her voice steady. I know, but I've thought about it a lot. If we keep hiding, if we let others define Noah's worth, then he'll never have a normal life. I don't want my son to grow up in fear of who he is. Ben was silent. He knew his wife was right, but he also understood the consequences of becoming the center of attention. Finally, he sighed. If you're sure about this, then I'll support you. Chloe smiled softly. Thank you. She opened her phone, took a deep breath, and began typing the first words. The picture Chloe chose was one of the twins lying next to each other on the bed. Leo with his deep brown skin and curly black hair, Noah with his snow-white skin and radiant blonde hair. The two boys were holding hands as if they had never cared about their differences. She wrote the caption, "We are Chloe and Ben, parents of these two twin boys. Can you believe they are twins? But this is the truth. Noah has albinism, a genetic condition that makes him lack skin and hair pigmentation. But that doesn't make him different in our eyes. Both of our boys are our angels, and we love them more than anything. We share this story to help people understand that differences are not to be feared. They are to be celebrated." She checked the post one more time. Would anyone really care? Or was this the biggest mistake of her life? Chloe took a deep breath, then hit post. She placed her phone on the table, looking at Ben. Now, all they could do was wait. Just a few hours later, Chloe's phone began vibrating constantly. At first, it was only a few likes, but then it kept growing. Hundreds, then thousands of shares. The first comments began appearing. This is amazing. They are so adorable. I've never seen such a special set of twins. I have an albino child in my family, but I've never dared to speak out. Thank you for sharing this story. Chloe was stunned. She hadn't expected this. She thought her post was just a small effort to protect her son, but now their story was spreading across the world. Less than a week later, the post had over 100,000 likes. News outlets began paying attention. Reporters contacted them for interviews. Children's fashion brands, cosmetics companies for albino people, and many other businesses sent messages wanting the boys to be advertising representatives. But more importantly, thousands of people around the world were sharing their story. People who had once feared their differences, people who had faced the same stigma as Noah. Noah was no longer a child marked by prejudice. He had become a symbol of acceptance and love. The people who had once whispered in the neighborhood now looked at Chloe with different eyes. Those who had called Noah a bad omen now said the boy was so special. Even Ben's family had to change their mindset. One day, Ben's mother called for the first time in a long while. Her voice wasn't cold. "Chloe, I read your post. Perhaps I was wrong about Noah." Chloe smiled softly. She didn't need acceptance from everyone, but she knew she had done the right thing. Noah was no longer just her son. He had become an inspiration for many people around the world. And it all started with one small decision: to step into the light. In just one night, Chloe's phone would not stop buzzing. She woke up in the middle of the night, opening her eyes and staring at the glowing phone screen next to her bed. Notifications kept coming in, one after another. Chloe rubbed her eyes, opened Instagram, and was stunned. Her post had received hundreds of thousands of likes and shares. The number of comments was so high that she couldn't read them all. "Wow, these two are so adorable. I've never seen such a special set of twins. I have an albino brother, but he's always been shunned. Thank you for sharing this story. The difference between these two is amazing. The world needs more stories like this." Chloe was shocked. She never imagined that her family story could touch the hearts of so many people. The next morning, when Chloe walked into the kitchen, Ben was sitting there, eyes fixed on his phone screen. When he saw her, he raised the screen to show her. "Did you know we're already on international news?" Chloe's eyes widened. "What?" Ben nodded. "Major news outlets have started covering us. They're calling us the miraculous twins of Africa." She quickly grabbed her phone, opened Google, and immediately saw a flood of articles. Special twins astonish the world. One black, one albino. These twin boys with contrasting appearances are shaking up social media. One article from a well-known news site even had the headline, "Difference is not something to fear. This is proof of the beauty of genetics." Chloe couldn't believe it. She just wanted to protect her son, but now Noah and Leo had become symbols of difference and acceptance. Not only were there words of admiration, but hundreds of parents from all over the world also shared their stories. A mother from the US commented, "I also have an albino child, and I've always worried about his future. Your story gave me hope." Someone from Brazil wrote, "My daughter faces discrimination because she's albino, but now I know we're not alone. Thank you for sharing." Even someone from Japan sent a message, "Thank you for sharing this story. I'm albino, and I was bullied as a child. Seeing Noah and Leo, I see hope for the next generation." Chloe cried as she read these messages. They hadn't just changed their own son's life. They were changing the way the world viewed difference. Less than a week after the post about the twins was shared, Chloe's inbox was flooded with messages. At first, she thought they were just congratulations from new followers, but when she opened them, she realized there were so many collaboration offers. Children's fashion brands, cosmetics companies for albino people, and even media companies had reached out to her. One email from a major fashion brand had a subject line that nearly made Chloe drop her phone. "We want your twins to be the face of our difference is beauty campaign." She read and reread the email, her eyes wide in surprise. Ben noticed his wife's shock and walked over to her. "What's going on?" She held up the screen for him to see. He read it and couldn't hide his own surprise. "What do you think?" Ben asked. Chloe took a deep breath. "I don't know. This is an amazing opportunity, but are we putting our kids into a world they're not ready to face?" Ben paused for a moment, then said, "If this helps Noah and Leo get accepted more, why not? But we have to be careful." Chloe nodded. "We'll do what's best for our children." Not only one brand, but many others also expressed interest in working with the twins. A cosmetics company specializing in products for albino people sent a special gift package to Chloe's house along with a heartfelt letter. We are so moved by your family's story. We want to send you some special products for Noah, and we hope you can share your experience. Also, we would like Noah to be the face of a global awareness campaign for albinism. Chloe opened the gift box, which contains special sunscreen, body lotion for sensitive skin, and UV protection glasses, all designed specifically for albino skin. She smiled softly, gently brushing Noah's soft hair as he slept peacefully. "You'll never have to feel different in a negative way again," she whispered. Not only fashion and beauty brands, but renowned photographers also wanted to shoot pictures of the twins. One email came from a famous photographer in London. "Your twin story is truly inspiring. I would love the opportunity to shoot a special photo series for them. One that not only showcases their differences, but also celebrates the love and bond between the two brothers." Chloe read the email with her heart racing faster than usual. She never imagined that her children would receive this kind of attention from the world. But what moved her the most was that people weren't just focused on the twins' unique appearances, but also the love between them, a bond that could never be broken. After careful consideration, Chloe and Ben decided to accept one of the offers from a children's fashion brand. The first photo shoot took place in a cozy studio with soft lighting. Leo and Noah wore matching outfits, one with warm brown skin, the other with bright white skin, but both were glowing and filled with happiness. The photographer raised the camera, then paused for a moment. "These two are amazing." When the first photo was taken, Chloe realized that they had embarked on a completely new journey, one she never imagined before. But would the world truly accept them, or was this just a passing trend? She knew greater challenges still lay ahead. When the first photo shoot of Leo and Noah was released, it went viral on social media. Major news outlets continued to cover it, and millions of people worldwide shared the images of the two boys with congratulations and admiration. "Never have I seen such adorable twins. This truly is a miracle of nature. Noah is an angel. I hope this baby will always be loved and protected." Chloe read each comment with a radiant smile on her face. She never expected that just a few weeks later, her family would become the center of attention worldwide. However, as the glow of fame grew brighter, the shadows began to creep in. The trouble began when Chloe accidentally scrolled down to the comment section of an article covering their story. Among the sea of love and admiration, harsh words appeared that left Chloe numb. "Disgusting. This is clearly a mutated child, not a normal human. She must have cheated with a white guy, and her husband is too stupid to realize it. What's there to celebrate? Don't promote this mixed race and deformity." Chloe felt as if someone had punched her in the chest. Her hands trembled as she read those heartless words, full of hatred. She quickly turned off her phone, but those words sank deep into her mind. She had tried to be strong for her child, but when faced with the cruelty of anonymous people online, she felt completely helpless. It wasn't just the comments about Noah. Chloe herself also became a target of hatred. Some people deliberately twisted her story. "This woman is just exploiting her child to make money. Don't be fooled. She's turning this poor child into a commercial tool. How shameful. No one cares about a mutated child. Don't exaggerate." Ben, upon reading these comments, clenched his fists, trying to control his anger. "They don't know anything about us. They don't know what you've been through," he said. Chloe buried her head in her hands. "But it feels like they're stripping away my right to be a mother. I just want to protect my son." He held her tightly, whispering, "We can't change everyone's mind, but you know what we're doing is going to change the lives of many albino children out there." Ben's words made Chloe look up. He was right. She couldn't let those cruel words destroy her bigger goal. As Chloe began to calm down, another worry crept into her mind. If on social media, people could call Noah a mutation, deformity, what about in real life? Would someone be willing to harm her son? In many African countries, albino people are still hunted for terrifying reasons. Some believe that their bones can bring luck and wealth. Though Lagos was a modern city, Chloe's fear lingered in her heart. She began to wonder, am I putting my son in danger by letting him become so famous? One evening, as Chloe was preparing the boys for bed, she received an anonymous message on Instagram. "Be careful. Some people don't want to see your son exist." She shuddered, feeling as though the blood in her veins had run cold. Was it a warning or a threat? Fame had brought amazing opportunities for Leo and Noah, helping them become symbols of acceptance and diversity. But it also brought unseen dangers. Chloe knew that this was no longer just about her family. This was a bigger fight, a fight against prejudice, against the fear of what's different. She stood at a crossroads. She could retreat, hide her family from the world's gaze, or she could keep fighting, accept the risks to create a better future for Noah, for children like him. And Chloe knew that she couldn't back down. Noah had spent his early days surrounded by the loving arms of his family. But despite Chloe and Ben doing everything to protect him, they could not shield him from the cruelty of the outside world. And school would be the first place to test the strength of the young boy. That morning, Chloe carefully adjusted the collar of both her sons' uniforms and then bent down to take Noah's and Leo's hands. "Are you ready?" she asked, trying to hide the anxiety in her voice. Leo nodded eagerly. He had always been the energetic and confident one. But Noah was different, clutching his mother's hand tighter than usual. "Mom, will there be anyone like me at school?" Noah asked, his eyes wide but innocent. Chloe paused for a moment. "Everyone is different in their own way, my son, and you don't have to look like anyone else to be loved." She kissed his forehead. But when they entered the school gates, she realized her words might not be enough to protect him from the harsh reality. From the moment the twins walked into the classroom, a strange atmosphere engulfed the room. Other students paused mid-sentence, their curious, judgmental eyes beginning to turn toward Noah. There were a few whispers at the back of the class. "Why is that boy so white? He looks so strange. Is that really Leo's twin brother?" Noah could feel the eyes on him, and he immediately felt out of place. But what worried him even more was the way the teacher looked at him. The homeroom teacher, a middle-aged woman with her hair tied up high, looked at Noah with a hint of awkwardness. She didn't say anything. She didn't greet him like she did with the other students. There was just a moment of hesitation before she turned to Leo with a bright smile. "You're Leo, right? It's nice to meet you." And Noah? He was almost invisible. During the first recess, Leo and Noah sat next to each other on a bench, sharing the breakfast their mother had prepared. But before they could finish half their sandwich, a group of 3 older kids walked up to them. Leading them was a tall boy with a buzz cut, his eyes cold like a wolf. He stood in front of Noah, arms crossed, looking him up and down. "What are you doing here?" His voice was challenging. Noah was confused. "I'm having breakfast." "I mean, you don't belong here," the boy sneered. Leo instantly tightened his grip on his brother's hand, staring the boy down. "He's my little brother. We're twins." But that only made the group burst into laughter. "Are you kidding? Look at him. He doesn't look anything like you. He's a fake." Noah blinked rapidly, his heart pounding faster. "No, I'm not fake. I'm Leo's little brother," he stammered. But the older boy didn't care. "You're a mistake. You're neither black nor white. What are you?" Noah felt his throat tighten, unable to answer. Before he could react, the boy shoved Noah to the ground. He fell hard, dirt splattering on his white uniform, his elbow throbbing with pain. Leo exploded. He jumped up and rushed at the bully, shoving him back. "Don't touch my little brother." The older boy stepped back, but there was no sign of fear. He just looked at Leo and sneered. "You're protecting him? Who do you think you are?" Then the whole group turned and walked away, leaving Noah trembling on the ground. Leo quickly helped his brother up, but Noah didn't cry. He didn't say anything, just bowed his head, clenching his small hands. For the first time in his life, Noah realized that he was different from the other kids, and they wouldn't let him forget it. When the brothers returned to class, Leo immediately reported what had happened to the teacher. She looked at Noah for a long moment, then sighed. "Noah, try to fit in instead of being different." Noah froze. She didn't ask if he was okay. She didn't ask who had bullied him. She simply said he should fit in, as if the fault was his, as if he shouldn't have been different in the first place. Noah lowered his head, feeling a cold wave rise within him. Leo clenched his fists, but he couldn't do anything more. The adults had seen it, but they didn't care. After that day, Noah began to change. He no longer looked forward to going to school. He no longer smiled when getting dressed in the mornings. When his mother asked, he just shook his head, saying everything was fine. But Chloe knew. She could feel the hurt eating away at her son's soul. Every day, Noah tried to withdraw, sitting in the corner of the class, not asking questions, not participating in group activities. But no matter how silent he was, the whispers never stopped. "Look, the weird boy is sitting alone again. Guess he thinks if he doesn't say anything, People will forget who he is. But no one will forget Freak. And the worst part was, no one did anything to stop it. Noah never told anyone, not his parents, not his brother. But one day, when Chloe walked into her son's room in the evening, she found him curled up in the corner of the bed, his eyes vacant. Her heart broke. "Noah, my son, what's wrong?" Noah looked up, and the question he asked nearly made Chloe cry. "Mom, why was I born like this?" Noah had once been an innocent and curious boy, but after starting school, something completely changed in him. He no longer smiled brightly in the mornings, no longer eagerly put on his backpack. Instead, every morning, Noah left the house with heavy steps and a sad look in his eyes. Chloe and Ben tried to believe that maybe he just needed time to adjust to the new environment. But one day, they couldn't deceive themselves any longer. Chloe noticed that Noah was eating less. He no longer liked his favorite foods like he used to. One time, she saw him just poking at his rice, not eating even a spoonful. "Noah, aren't you hungry?" she asked, trying to keep her voice gentle. Noah shook his head and pushed the bowl away. "I don't want to eat anymore, Mom." Chloe looked at Ben, the worry clear on both of their faces. At night, Noah couldn't sleep peacefully either. Every time Chloe checked on him, she found him curled up, hugging his pillow, his eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. One time, she sat beside him, gently brushing his soft hair. "Noah, what's wrong, sweetheart?" He hesitated for a long time, then whispered, "Mom, if I disappear, would everyone be happy here?" Chloe's heart felt like it had been squeezed. She hugged her son tightly, tears quietly falling. What had happened at school? Why was her son thinking such thoughts? She knew she couldn't stand by any longer. When Ben heard what Noah said, he almost wanted to go straight to the school and confront the teacher. But Chloe held him back. "If we do that without proof, they'll just deny everything." Ben clenched his fist. "So what should we do?" They looked at each other, and Chloe came up with a bold idea. Ben had a friend in the tech industry, and he helped them prepare a tiny hidden camera. This camera was attached to the side pocket of Leo's backpack. No one would notice. Along with that, they also placed a recording device in Noah's wristwatch. Everything was ready. The next day, Noah and Leo went to school as usual, unaware that every moment of the day would be recorded. Chloe and Ben sat at home, waiting in tension. Would they discover something? They had no idea that the truth about to be revealed would leave them stunned. That evening, when the two children were asleep, Chloe and Ben inserted the memory card into the computer. They opened the video, and the screen was dark, but then the first image appeared. In the video, they saw Noah sitting alone in class. The other students huddled together, but no one sat next to him. Noah tried to join a group, but one boy pushed him away, whispering something. Ben clenched his fists. But when the sound came on, both of them were frozen in shock. "Go away, freak. You don't belong with us. You're a monster. You shouldn't even be here." Noah lowered his head, saying nothing, but those eyes were lifeless. But that wasn't all. Chloe shuddered as she saw the next part. Noah raised his hand, trying to ask a question in class. The teacher, who should have protected the students, looked at Noah for a moment, then turned away as if she hadn't seen him. A moment later, she called on another student, completely ignoring Noah. But what made Chloe's breath catch was when another teacher walked into the room and whispered to the homeroom teacher, "That albino kid is distracting the class. You should tell him to keep quiet." The teacher didn't object. She nodded as if in agreement. Chloe couldn't believe her eyes. Noah wasn't just being bullied by his classmates. Even the teacher was intentionally isolating him. Ben slammed his fist down on the table. "This is unacceptable." The next morning, Chloe and Ben stormed into the principal's office, bringing undeniable evidence. The principal, initially calm, turned pale when Chloe placed the laptop on the table and hit play on the video. "How do you explain this?" Chloe said, her voice as cold as ice. The principal stammered, but Ben didn't give her a chance to lie. "My son has been discriminated against right in front of you, and no one did anything. If you don't take action immediately, I swear I'll take this to the media and the authorities." The anger in his eyes made the entire room tense. For the first time, the indifferent adults were forced to face the consequences of their actions. Chloe stared directly at the principal. "Make your choice. Will you protect these children or continue to condone injustice?" The principal had no choice. The discriminatory teacher was immediately fired. The bully was suspended from school. But Chloe knew that punishment alone wasn't enough. Noah needed a safe environment, and they would find a way to ensure that for their son. That night, Chloe looked at Noah sleeping. Her little boy had endured so much, but now he wouldn't be alone anymore. Chloe gently stroked her son's soft hair, whispering, "I promise you, you will never feel lonely again." Noah had endured enough. It was time for Chloe and Ben to go beyond fighting within the confines of their family. They needed to bring the truth to light so that no other child would have to go through the same things. Chloe knew that if she didn't speak up, children like Noah would continue to be hurt and seen as outsiders in the very school that was supposed to protect them. She made the decision that this would never happen again. Chloe sat before the computer screen, her hands resting on the keyboard but not typing. She knew that once this video was posted, everything would change. She took a deep breath, remembering Noah's look from the night before, eyes no longer full of trust in himself. No, she couldn't let her son continue to suffer like this. She opened the video and cut together the most important moments. The scene of Noah being pushed away from a group of friends, the moment he raised his hand to ask a question but was ignored by the teacher, the bully shouting at him that he didn't belong there, and the recording of the teacher saying he was disrupting the class. Chloe wrote a caption, "I am a mother, and today I can no longer stay silent. This is how my innocent son has been treated just because he has a different skin color. Can we accept this? Can we allow our children to grow up in a society where teachers, who are supposed to protect them, encourage injustice? I need justice for my son, and I know there are thousands of children out there suffering the same way. Speak up." She hit post. At first, the post only received a few likes and comments from friends and family. But within a few hours, it began spreading rapidly. Celebrities began sharing the post. News outlets covered the story. Parents with children who had been discriminated against in schools began speaking up. Hashtags like Justice for Noah and Stop School Discrimination flooded social media. Under Chloe's post, thousands of comments poured in. "I can't believe this is happening in a school. We need justice for this boy. It's heartbreaking to see a teacher condoning discrimination. Someone needs to be held accountable. We cannot let this continue. Parents, let's speak up together." The pressure from public opinion grew stronger than ever, and the school Noah attended could no longer ignore the storm. Only 2 days after Chloe posted the video, the principal called an emergency meeting. The media had already caught wind of the issue, and the school had no choice but to address it. An official statement was released. "We deeply regret the inappropriate actions that took place within our school campus. We are committed to making strong changes to ensure all students are treated fairly and no one is discriminated against." But apologies were not enough. The public demanded real action. Under pressure from parents and public opinion, the school officially fired the teacher who had discriminated against Noah. The teacher was banned from teaching in the local education system. The bully who had harassed Noah was suspended for an extended period, and all teachers were required to attend training on diversity and anti-discrimination. The media continued to report on Noah's story, turning it into a milestone in the fight for fairness in the educational system. Child rights organizations got involved, launching awareness campaigns. Noah's story became a larger movement than itself. And in the end, Chloe felt that she had done the right thing. Although the school had pledged to change, Chloe and Ben knew they could not allow Noah and Leo to continue learning in an environment that had caused their son so much harm. They needed to find a place where their son would be respected from the start, not just because public opinion demanded it. They searched for schools with clear anti-discrimination policies, places that celebrated diversity instead of pushing different children to the margins. Eventually, they found a suitable school, a place where students from different cultures were welcomed, where teachers genuinely cared for every child. On the first day Noah and Leo arrived at their new school, Chloe was nervous. But when they entered the classroom, she saw the other students approach them, curious but friendly. A boy from their class smiled and reached out to Noah. "Hey, I'm Jake. Do you want to play with us?" Noah looked at his mother, his eyes filled with hope. Chloe smiled and nodded. The boy took his new friend's hand, and for the first time in a long while, Noah genuinely smiled. Ben placed his hand on his wife's shoulder, whispering, "We did the right thing." Chloe watched her son run towards the playground with his new friends, her heart filled with relief. She knew that this wasn't just a victory for Noah. It was a victory for so many other children out there waiting for a fairer world. Their journey was far from over, but for the first time, they knew Noah would have a bright future ahead, no longer fearing the difference that made him unique. From the very first days at his new school, Chloe noticed a significant change in her son. Noah no longer went to school with sad eyes, no longer lowered his head to avoid the gazes of others. Instead, he began to smile. On the first morning, as he walked into the classroom, Noah felt nervous. He wasn't sure if the kids here would look at him with the same distant gaze as before. But as soon as he placed his backpack on the desk, a curly-haired girl ran up to him, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Hi, I'm Mia. Do you want to play with us?" Noah's eyes widened. No one had ever approached him like this before. He stammered, "Can I?" Mia laughed. "Of course. We're drawing. Do you want to join?" Noah looked back at Leo, seeking confirmation. His brother smiled and nodded. "Go ahead, Noah." And for the first time in a long while, Noah didn't feel alone. In the days that followed, he gradually found joy in school, no longer feeling isolated. The teacher always encouraged him to speak up, no longer ignoring or avoiding him as before. His new friends didn't see him as weird or different. They just saw a sweet, kind, and warm boy. One day, when Chloe picked him up after school, Noah ran up to her, beaming. "Mom, I've got a friend now." She hugged him tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. It was all she had ever wanted, to give her son a childhood just like any other child. Even though they had found a new environment, one thing remained unchanged. Leo was still always there to protect his younger brother. While Leo no longer needed to stand up to bullies for Noah, he continued to stand by his side, playing, studying, and discovering new things together. One day, as Noah was drawing in class, a classmate asked him, "Why is your skin so white?" Noah hesitated, unsure how to answer. Before he could speak, Leo spoke up. "Because my brother is special." The whole class fell silent as they looked at Leo. He smiled proudly. "Noah is unlike anyone else, and that's the best thing about him. You know, albinism isn't a disease, it's a natural part of the body. And my brother is the best brother in the world." Noah looked at his brother with shining eyes. He had once been afraid of his difference, but now he understood that there was nothing to be ashamed of. Thanks to Leo, Noah learned to be stronger. No longer the shy boy, he began to speak up about himself, share his story with others, and that helped him become an inspiration to many. As Noah and Leo's story spread across social media, many child rights organizations and albino awareness groups took notice. One day, Chloe received an email from an international nonprofit organization. "Noah's journey is a huge inspiration. We would love for your family to participate in a campaign to raise awareness about albinism and fight discrimination. Would you be willing to share your story?" Chloe read the email, her heart racing. She turned to Ben, who was listening intently. "What do you think?" Ben took her hand and nodded. "This is no longer just Noah's story. It's the story of so many other children. We have to do this." And so, Noah and Leo appeared on major forums, sharing their story. The photos of the two brothers, one with warm brown skin, the other with bright white skin, became symbols of diversity and love. Noah had once feared the stares of others, but now he was no longer afraid. He had learned that difference wasn't something to fear, it was something to be celebrated. One day, during a speech, Noah stood before hundreds of people, took the microphone, and said, "When I was young, I used to think that if I disappeared, maybe everyone would be happier. But now I understand that my existence means something. I want to tell all those who have ever felt isolated, you're not alone, you have value, and you deserve to be loved." The entire auditorium stood up and applauded. And in that moment, Chloe knew that her son had won. Not by defeating the bullies, not by defeating the teachers who had once abandoned him, but by conquering the fear inside himself. And from then on, Noah was no longer just an albino boy. He had become a symbol of change. Leo and Noah's story is not just about being different. It's a story about love, resilience, kindness, and the fight for justice. Noah once thought that if he disappeared, the world would be better off. But thanks to his family, the unwavering love of his mother, the protection of his brother, and the people who stood up for him, he realized that he was not a mistake. He was a gift. Leo had always instinctively protected his brother, but through everything, he learned that sometimes protecting someone is not just about fighting back. It's about helping them see their own worth. And Chloe and Ben proved that when parents fight for their children, they can change an entire system. No one deserves to be treated unfairly because of their appearance, their skin color, or any other difference. But change doesn't happen on its own. It happens when people have the courage to stand up, to speak out, and to fight for what is right. So what about you? If you witness someone being discriminated against, what will you do? Will you stay silent like the teachers who ignored Noah? Or will you stand up like Leo and Chloe did? Change begins with the smallest actions. Share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue following more powerful, emotional stories. This story doesn't just end here. It serves as a reminder that every child deserves to be loved, respected, and protected.